Hey guys, let's start with the build here. What we're going to do now is we're going to install the main components of the clutch side here. So we already have the oil pump and shift mechanism and some gears installed. We're not going to torque them down yet. We are just going to install them so we can actually then put the head, the cylinder head and the cylinder on top of it, and install the timing chain and still have room to kind of play with the timing chain to make it align nicely. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the gears that are placed here, and we are just going to put them in. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do, so you can just follow that step by step. Before, maybe it's important to highlight, I already tightened up all these bolts to 10 Newton meters. Some of them we need to remove in a bit because you will see, and really make sure that all the bolts are tightened. And this one is in because this one you can only get in from the other side, and I guess that's about it. So first part is this kind of spacer that's just going on this shaft here. If you have a Kickstarter, there will be a Kickstarter gear here, but this one doesn't have anyone, so we are gonna use that. And now for all these parts, make sure to just loop them up a bit, get some oil on there. So that's already the first one. Then let's start on this side with the balancer shaft gear. So in my case it actually looks like this. If you're having a newer Supermoto or an S model, there's kind of some, I guess, 4 red springs on it and a washer plate. Please check the manual on how to exactly install that, since I'm not fully aware of that. But in this case we are going to use this side, which is a bit longer, and place it at the bottom. But before we do that, we need something, and that little something is such a pin. And now this pin here will be installed in a tiny hole on the side. I'm using a magnet here to make it a bit easier for myself. Yes, and now it's slid in, so that's there. See that piece here? Then make sure we put the longer side to the bottom and then drop that in. Of course, now you need to make sure it's actually aligning with the dowel pin we just put in. Now there we go. Okay, so this one turns freely, that's perfect. Then we can go ahead and hop over to the crankshaft side. So for that there's this gear, and here we do have exactly the same. We do need a little dowel pin underneath. Now we're going to take this gear and just put it on top. There might be a slight resistance here until it pops in, and once that's in, that's perfect. But now we have an issue. We actually need to time these gears, and as you maybe can see here, there's a dot on both ends here, which actually then makes sure that the crank doesn't hit the balancer shaft. So we can just lift this up a tiny bit here and then move it over until the 2 dots will match, and this dot here, and now you can see the 2 dots exactly lining up, which now means if we move the crank, the balancer shaft won't hit, and it's actually adjusted right for the balance it needs. So as you can see, in here there's the dowel pin which is placed in, then the other one is right there, and now we do have this little piece here. And before we use that, we are going to throw in this gear here. Just throw it to the bottom here. Maybe make sure that it's a bit looped up, and it just should slide on. And once we have that in place now here, we are going to use this pin here. And actually there is a rounded side, as you can see on the bottom here. This rounded side will face up, And then we're going to make sure we have the edge facing into the crankshaft. So the edge would be this little part here. It's not going to go in like this, it's going to go in like that. We put that on, and then we can go ahead and put on this gear. That's actually going to be the primary drive gear. This one is where the cam chain then later will go, and we can just kind of slide that on top here with this side here facing up. That's in. Then we do have a washer here, and actually it's a cupped washer, so it's facing in like this. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it's going like that, and we're going to place it on exactly like this. And once that's done, we can bolt on this nut, and here make sure to be aware it's reverse threaded, and we are just gonna put that in place like this, so it just holds. And then we can actually go ahead and install the washer here on the balancer shaft with a nut on it as well. This one we are actually going to use Loctite on later on, so I'm not going to lube it. And now that's already done for this side of these gears. Now let's take this pump drive here and give her some oil, and you can also, or you should also, put in some oil here into this hole and then spin it a couple times just to make sure the oil is already in the pump itself. You can also use this hole, doesn't matter. And you can already see it bubble here, which is a good sign. It means the pump is working and it actually pumps oil. We do have the inner impeller, which is going to be held in place by this little pin here. You can just slide that through, loop this one up, get it in, and now we are placing in the pump like that. So we have to align all these little dots here on the impellers. We will need to align them on the top here when installing. Then hold it nicely, and then we should be able to drop that in somehow. Yes, there we go. So we dropped it in, and the pump, you can actually hear it if you were silent. And you can also see it pumping some oil in here. So that's all working. Next, we're going to take 3 bolts like this, and we are going to secure them here. And for that, we're going to use some medium strength Loctite on it. And we're going to tighten them with a JIS screwdriver. And I'm just going to get them strongly hand tight. So now there is some other stuff to do, which are these parts here. So this one goes in here. That's basically an oil delivery line. And this one as well, that will pop in here. But before we're going to do that, I'm going to replace these 4 O-rings with new ones, just to make sure we don't get any leaks here. Now I got all the rings changed, and just gonna make sure to lube all of that stuff up nicely. And this one here we can actually just push in until there is a little pop, maybe twist it a bit. There we go. And then for this one I actually have to remove this bolt here, since I already torqued that up before. And now we can actually go ahead and install the shift mechanism and all of that. So first step is actually we are going to install this part here, the shift gear stopper, or shift cam stopper I guess it is. So it will consist of a bolt like this. Then there's going to be the shift stopper and the little washer on it. And then on top of that we are going to add a spring. Like this. It's gonna go in. Now don't lose that washer here, and then we're gonna put it in and try to screw it in a bit, and then make sure the spring, this part, goes in here, and then we actually need to kind of compress it a little bit, tighten it slightly and see if it still can be moved. There should be a lot of pressure against it, but it's still should be possible to move it. Now we're going to set the torque wrench to 19 Newton meters. Fine. Okay, now we get to the interesting part. We actually need a screwdriver to push this out of our way. It's a bit of a struggle, maybe need two hands, and then you can just kind of carefully put it to the side, and then we are gonna add in this part here. So here there should be a notch which will line up with this one here. Now we are using a 12mm deep socket, and this one will be torqued to 24 Newton meters, but when torquing it, be aware that the cam still might move a little bit, since you can actually kind of shift it by hand now. So make sure it's turned by hand in the right position. Maybe also kind of cycle through the gearbox, and then we can start torquing it. Okay, still one. Make sure to really move your gearbox here, because we don't want to kind of damage anything. Now that should be in place, and we're going to set it to 24 Newton meters. Let's go. Now we can remove this screwdriver here, and now it should actually stop this shift cam. And next up we can go ahead and install the most painful part of that whole thing, which is gonna be this part here. So with that we're gonna find the following parts here. We're gonna find two pins. Actually on one side they're slightly rounded, on the other side they're flat, and then we're gonna find these ones here. And in here, make sure that's there is a spring on each side here. And now the idea basically is to install the flat side inside, and then put this part here in there like that, and kind of push it together and do it on both sides. So once that's done, we can then get this piece on and slide it in. And now we're going to make sure we're going to cover the engine because I don't want to drop any little pieces in there. Or actually we're going to do it on the side here. Make sure we take the flat side inside. Try to get that in. And then we're going to use the one with the notch on the bottom here. And try to press that in like that. Now that's the easy part. Now the harder part will be doing the same on the other side as well. Okay, now we need to rotate it like that to this side here. And then with this stuff compressed, we now need to slide in this piece here. And now if you are careful enough, you can hold it like that. So that's how it should look like. Keep them compressed. And you can drop them in like that. So easy, haha, so easy, have fun. Then we are going to use these two screws here and put some Loctite on it and then bolt them down. Now the next step is probably already installing the shift shaft, but before we are going to do that, we're actually going to flip the case around, because there's a little part missing here on this side. And that's actually the missing part, would actually be that seal here. Now they already come pre-greased in here, but I'm gonna put some more grease, especially on the outside, so it just makes it easier to slide it in. Then you can actually use a size 15 or even a 16 to push it in. And then just make sure it's flush in here. And we are actually going to take some more grease here, just to make sure when we put that shift shaft in, it won't destroy anything. Now with that done, I actually ordered a new shift shaft, since this one here has some grooves. It's not in a bad shape, but once we're in here, now that's how it's gonna look like. And then I'm just gonna move all the parts over from this end to the other end. Now we take this little washer here, lube up the whole shaft, and now we are just carefully gonna get it through. Get that washer on. And then I'm actually gonna find a new clip here, because this one is already bent. We can actually go ahead and install this gear, which will drive the oil pump. And yeah, just put this side to the bottom. And then there's a little spring clip here. That's it, that's good.